Spiritual warfare. That's what we're talking about today. And there's going to be some harsh truths in this upcoming conversation. So if you're looking for something pretty and light, this is not your video. If you're ready for some harsh, serious truths that get you to actually see where you are, then yeah, baby, this video is definitely for you. Spiritual warfare. You think you'll know if you're at war, don't you? You think you'll know if you were involved in a war, like if you were fighting a war, you'd think you would know. The genius of spiritual warfare is how covered up and covert it actually is. And it is a war for frequency. Your frequency, your consciousness. The war is to keep you there, to keep you imprisoned into a false matrix, imprisoned into a very dense vibratory frequency, always chasing your own tail, fighting with others, judgment and condemnation, keeps you locked into exactly where the jailers or the masters want you to be. So let's talk about who they are. Who are the masters of the false matrix? They are a group of beings known as the archons. The archons are a breakaway group that were created by God. Everything was created by God, but we have free will. So in a free will universe, this kind of stuff is allowed to be cooked up. And these archonic beings became depraved and psychopathic in their role. Their role was to hold darkness. Their role was to anchor darkness, which in and of itself is a very noble, very pure role, because darkness always catalyzes light. It's a beautiful thing. However, these beings became very attached to their role and began to feel superior in their role. And as a result, they began to think, wait a minute, we could actually be bigger than God. Who needs this God character? We'll be God. We'll take it over. We'll create. Oh, there's a problem. They realized we can't create, because the moment they rejected God, the moment they rejected their connection to God, the fact that they were a part of God, the moment they pushed that away, they lost their ability to create. So they're very clever. They're psychopathic geniuses, these archons. This is the depravity of spending too much time in the role of darkness. And what they cooked up was damn clever. Let's get a prisoner, but let's get a couple of billion, because that's how many we'll need. Let's get some prisoners and let's get them to create on our behalf, but never know that they're in jail, because, and it is pretty clever, right? If you don't know that you're in jail and you can't see the jail cell, you're going to say things like, I'm free. You're going to believe that you're free. You're going to defend your freedom. You're going to defend your jail cell. You're going to defend the state of being that you're in, because you're going to think this is normal, this is right, this is me, this is fair, this is who I am, this is what I'm meant to be. And I know a lot of you listening right now will say, actually, hold on. When I was younger, and let me know in the comments if these kind of thoughts were yours. When I was younger, I felt that something was very wrong. I looked at the world and I knew that it wasn't meant to be like this. A lot of people have that thought and then just carry on, because what else are you going to do? When everybody else is carrying on, when it seems that there's nothing else to do but carry on the act, the play, then you keep going. Also, because you can't see the walls of the jail cell, you can't see beyond the walls of the jail cell. In other words, you can't connect to that missing you, that quintessential self, which is multidimensional, infinite, higher consciousness, harmonious, all loving, all knowing, infinite and wise. That's the true self, which seems such a distant and far cry from the ego self who lives inside the prison. That's who occupies the jail cell. It's the ego. And I've often said this to you before, that the false matrix needed a navigator. The true self can't navigate the false matrix because the power of the true self is so enormous and its truth is so omnipotent that if the true self stepped a foot into the false matrix, it would begin to collapse the false matrix itself. The false matrix would come undone in the presence of the true self. And that wasn't part of the deal. That wasn't part of the game. As much as the archons had their role to play in establishing the false matrix, which was, okay, we need a prison force to create on our behalf, we elected to come here, which is something that so many people say, oh, can't be, Carrie. We were hijacked, we were stolen, we were forced, we were manipulated. All of those things are true, but at a higher level, your soul agreed to this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. This is a free will universe. And it was free will that brought us here, even if you say, oh, but I didn't know it was going to be this bad. Sure. It was still free will that brought you here. And what did you get? What were you going to get out of it? You were going to get the opportunity to descend into the deepest, darkest depths of yourself, to come into the lowest level of consciousness and ultimate forgetfulness. Ultimate disconnection to the true self in order to reforge the connection. That's what we're in the process of doing right now. We're just there. We're just on the brink of reconnecting to the true self. And we've got some minds that are about to blow as we go, oh my gosh, is this the enormity of who I actually am? Is this the magnificence of who I actually am? Why are we getting to do this now? Why are we getting to bend the rules that I said to you earlier? We couldn't. We couldn't bring the true self into the false matrix, but why now? Why can we do it now? Because it's time. Because we're at the end of the play of the false matrix. Because enough light workers have come to consciousness on the planet to facilitate an ultimate collapse in the false matrix. And because everything works in cycles. Because as much as this depravity was allowed to start, the great supreme creator of all that is, which is God, also knew that there would come a time that this would all fall apart, because darkness is designed to implode upon itself. Darkness is designed to be its own undoing, because darkness cannot maintain itself. It can't. It always has to feed on something else. Right now, we're the fuel source. Not only are we the creators of their dream, the creators of their reality, their false matrix, we're also the food source or the fuel source for these depraved, dark, archonic beings. But we can, if we want to, get caught in the victimhood of all of that. We can, if we want to, go to war, and then we'll just lock ourselves in. The way to transcend the false matrix and to really release ourselves from the prison cell of the false matrix and to ultimately win the war is not to engage in the war at all. It is instead to engage with the true self. It is instead to ascend, or if I could put this in a better way, to transcend the illusion, to transcend the prison, which is right here. This is the prison. You want to look for the false matrix out there, you're going to look forever and you won't find it. Here it is. That's why people can't see the walls of the prison and people can't see the prison itself, because it's inside your mind. This is part of the spiritual warfare. It is to keep you locked in, contained into a very narrow bandwidth of consciousness in which you can only think with your brain, which I know for a lot of people they're going to think is crazy. A lot of people are going to say, Carrie, do you have any idea? Like, the brain is so smart, the brain is so clever, the brain is so ... all of these amazing things. The brain is minuscule in its capacity for intelligence when you compare it to the supreme intelligence of the infinite mind, of the multidimensional self that you are, of the quantum realm that exists beyond this prison cell. There is an entire world that you can, if you want to, be reintroduced to. I'm pausing here for a little moment because I want you to take in the sincerity and the severity of where you've been and where you could potentially be. Oh, jailbreaker. I love the fact that we break out of prison by breaking through the limitations within ourselves, by daring to confront and feel and face ourselves, by daring to go where we were told not to, which is into this place where we are not in control. Here we have the illusion. It's all it is. It's the illusion of control. That's why we like the structure and the order of thought, because it gives us that illusion of control. Yet here in the quantum realm, where everything is now, where you're plugged into the mind of God and the heart of the universe, there isn't sequence and order in the same structured way as it happens here in the mind. It's more of an omnipotent knowingness. We have the keys. Here's the amazing thing about the spiritual warfare that has forced humanity into these prison cells. They're self-imposed. The crazy thing is the door to the prison cell stands wide open. You can walk out at any time, but most people get so used to the small confined space that they find it safe. Kind of like a baby, you know. I got 3 children. I remember when my babies were small, wrapping them, swaddling them in this lovely receiving blanket. And they'd be crying and fussing, and then I would just make them feel contained, and they would, you could watch the body. Phew. Okay. Because they needed a sense of boundary and a sense of parameter and a sense of I'm in this space and therefore I'm safe. And that's our programming. Our programming says freedom is scary. Our words say something different. And part of the prison of the false matrix is to limit and confine us to thinking in words, not in feeling. One of the hardest jobs that I have in my online community, which is where I do all my teaching work, they're called the Plasma Light Tribe. One of the hardest jobs that I have in the Plasma Light Tribe is teaching people, especially spiritual people, who've spent a lot of years getting very heady, intellectual about their spirituality, who are convinced that if they think the right thoughts, they will ascend or they will transcend or they will heal, that it's all got to do with the thoughts instead of the feeling. And when I say the feeling, think of the world of feeling as a sea, as an ocean of energy that you've got to dive into. And think of diving into that ocean and just experiencing and observing, but not speaking. Kind of like when you are diving deep down in the ocean, you're not going to have a whole chatterbox session. Okay, you could be thinking, but you get the analogy that I'm giving you here. When you dive down deep into the ocean, you only witness, you only observe. You're not going to go into a conversation. And the truth is, hopefully, even internal conversation lessens or at best dies down completely. That's where enlightenment can take place. That's where you transcend the false matrix. That's where you connect to the true self, is when you begin to allow yourself access to your energy, the quantum world outside of this chatterbox brain. I was talking to a great friend of mine the other day. We were talking about this, about the prison cell of the mind. And we were talking about how so many people fight over whose teachings are right, which teachers are right, about how important affirmations are, about how devoted to their thoughts, their right thoughts, right spiritual thinking they are. And I said to her, you know what that's like? That's like being in a jail cell and defending the jail cell. And she laughed and she said, yeah, it's kind of like decorating the jail cell and seeing how pretty the pictures are, seeing how pretty the walls of the jail cell can be. Look at me. I'm keeping myself in the construct. I'm keeping myself in the confines, but I have the illusion of superiority, the illusion that I'm getting somewhere, the illusion that I'm doing something that nobody else is doing, the illusion that I'm being very, very spiritual because I'm wording my way into what I perceive and am conning myself to believe is a higher reality. That's the hard job that I have. Getting people out of that mindset and into this place that they don't want to go. And isn't this insanity? People don't want to go outside of the jail cell. Because when they do, the first layer of energy that they're going to swim into is everything that they've pushed aside, suppressed, and avoided. And it's a narrow field of energy, and they'll swim right through it into the bliss and the joy and the higher consciousness and the healing and the love and the wisdom and the insight. But because they've got to go through that narrow current of energy that is uncomfortable, they don't want to go. It's like that's part of the wall. That's part of the security of that jail cell that prevents people from stepping out and keeps people in, is the discomfort, the threat of discomfort. Man, right now, if you look at humanity, they don't want to be uncomfortable. And yet, if they dare and if you dare, and let's make this really personal, if I dare to be uncomfortable, I guarantee you I'm going to grow. You're going to grow. We're going to grow. If we let ourselves actually embrace not just the thoughts that we think about something and the outrage that we think about something, but the feelings that those words describe. If we let ourselves go there, we do something amazing. We actually start to discharge all of the energy that is lower frequency. Like that's it. That's, people always say to me, what does it take to heal? It takes getting into your field. That's how you heal. That's how you ascend. You get into your energetic field. And again, this is where a lot of people, because they're thinking with the brain, they're thinking inside the prison cell, and they're using the tools of the false matrix, and the tools of that prison cell tell them, this has to make sense. I've got to analyze my way through this. Otherwise, I'm not going in. It's kind of like me saying to you, come on, we're going to go diving into this big, deep, dark ocean. And most people are going to stand on the edge of the ocean going, but I don't know what's in there. My brain can't make sense of it. My eyes can't see it. So I'm quite simply not going to go in. Except in this case, the ocean is you. It's not even something outside of you. And the moment you dive in there, oh, yeah, baby, it feels like home, and it feels like flow, and it feels like the return of the true self. But remember that spiritual warfare is all about cutting off your access to the divine self by bringing you into a state of analysis, locking you here into the brain. And the crazy thing is, most people who feel emotion with the brain. And again, this is quite a sticking point for a lot of people when I explain this to them. True emotion, when you experience it, is a wave of energy with zero thought whatsoever. It's just, wow, there it is. There's a wave. You know, one of the most impactful calls that we had in the Plasma Light Tribe was when I can't even remember which call it was. I'm sure in the comment section, somebody in the Light Tribe will tell us. You can go, if you remember, you can go and watch that call. I got really angry one day, and I said, to the members of the Light Tribe, I said, you know, I was once sent an email by a member of the Light Tribe who said, oh, Kerry, you know, if you get emotional, triggered, angry, upset with perhaps questions that people ask, because people do this, right? I just spend like an hour explaining something, and then somebody's going to come in and ask me exactly what I've just explained. And then I go, what did you just hear me say? Like, how did you not get that? How did you not understand it? So this woman said, if you get angry, just step away. Just tell everyone, look, guys, I'm just going to take myself a little moment, and I'm going to come back when I've arranged myself all perfectly. And I said, no, I'll be damned if I do that. That's the exact opposite of what I teach. What I teach is authenticity. What I teach is, let me show you, let me reveal to you my vulnerable truth. Let me show you by my own living example what it looks like when somebody discharges an emotion. Look, there is anger. Look, it harmed no one. It projected at no one. It shouted at no one. It belittled no one. But it was very evident that I personally was frustrated. And then I moved through that frustration, and I showed them how I moved through that frustration into a higher compassion, into a higher love, into a higher outcome. And from this, so much has been taught and learned and understood by the members of the Plasma Light Tribe, who once were walking around going like, you can't feel, especially as a spiritual person, you can't feel anger, you can't feel all these negative, low frequency emotions. That is such nonsense. That's part of what locks us into the prison cell. We have to feel all of these deep emotions and to realize that they're very, very fluid. And they move, they're transient, they're not stuck states of being. They only become stuck states of being when we judge or analyze them. So what we're doing is we are inside these prison cells, fighting to keep ourselves inside the prison of the false matrix. We've got other prisoners who will see us on the brink of transcendence, and they become police. They'll tell you, oh, no, you know, you've got to, kind of like that person said to me, you've got to conform, you've got to stay a certain way, you've got to fit the mold, you've got to be a spiritual person that never gets angry, always be perfect, etc. So you're going to have the other prisoners acting as jailers to keep you in jail, and you're going to have yourself that gets scared when you push through your own boundaries. It's amazing to me that as we come closer and closer to ascension, so much of pop psychology has focused in on the need for boundaries, and boundaries keep you in jail. The truth about boundaries is that that was another ploy. That was another way to keep people inside the prison of the false matrix, when the truth is that when you embody light, light begins to speak for you, begins to protect you, begins to uplift you, begins to do everything that you wanted those boundaries to do. And you never need to put yourself behind a wall. You, in fact, need to do the opposite. You need to shine, baby, shine. Instead of shrink and shrivel and diminish, which is what happens when you shield, except when you shield, a lot of people step into superiority. Unfortunately, they step into judgment. They step into condemnation. They say, oh, I showed that person. I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to tolerate that. They get really bulgy, and they think that they are somehow in a superiority over somebody now because they've put up this big boundary without realizing the boundary is the prison cell. Your light is your freedom. Your light is your protection. Your light becomes a frequency that spiritual warfare wants you not to have. It becomes a frequency that others of lower frequency, when they tangle with it and become entangled with it, it becomes their undoing. So they're going to steer clear. They're going to steer away from you, not run towards you when you embody higher consciousness. And obviously, there will be those who may not yet have the skill of embodying light. And in that case, and in that case only, use the boundaries until, like, use them as a temporary thing until you learn how to exude that light, shine that light, trust that light, be that light. Never before have we had access to the levels of consciousness that we do now. Never before have we had the capacity to step out of the jail cell now, and never before has there been so much coordinated energy, effort, and attention invested into keeping humanity inside the jail cell. You are a prisoner of the false matrix when you cannot think for yourself. And if you look around you, we're a lot of people with a lot of opinions that are purely head-based opinions. In other words, they're not energetic truths. There's a big difference between something that I believe, even if I believe it vehemently, versus an energetic truth. An energetic truth becomes a state of being. It becomes a presence as opposed to a thought form. So what you're going to find right now is people getting seriously opinionated. What you're going to find is people getting seriously indoctrinated. What you're going to find is people ingesting food, people being exposed to toxic air, to chemicals, to water, to all sorts of things that dysregulate their nervous system, that interfere with the signaling capacity of their DNA. And then, this is the hard part, when people see that stuff going on, they become victims to it because now they want to go to war with all of these technologies used to keep them in the jail cell, instead of realizing the moment, the millisecond that they step into higher consciousness, none of that stuff has any impact on them. It's a useless battle to go into battle against all the toxins in the skies and all of the pollutants in the foods, which are numerous and plentiful. Be your light. Be the light that you are, instead of being diminished by everything that has been set about to hurt you and harm you and keep you small. It's such a clever war. The prisoners of the false matrix don't know that they're prisoners and don't know that they're reinforcing the prison when they try to clash with the jailers and try to bring righteousness and bring justice instead of be the change and be the light. It's time now to step into the energy body, to live as the energy field that you are. I love to leave these little activations at the end of my videos, and I had someone say to me, this was many videos ago, I had someone say to me, Kerry, I love your content, but I don't like the very end. I never watch the end. You irritate me so much when you get all mushy, ushy, gushy, and you're like, mwah, 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 I love you, and I always say to you guys, from my heart all the way into yours, and this person really took issue with it. It upset them, it jarred them very deeply, and they were very verbose about how much they didn't enjoy that. And I wrote back and I said to them, it's so sad that you can't be loved, because love is an activation. Love is a celebration of your sovereignty. And you know what sovereignty is? Sovereignty is not a headspace. Sovereignty is when you have dominion over your energy field. That's what sovereignty is. So many people want sovereignty there in the head. You know, it's like using the tools that keep you in the false matrix to try to get you out of the false matrix. The tools that I'm talking about are the clever, so-called clever, chatterbox analytical mind. You can't use this thing to get you out of the false matrix. This is what you have to transcend and step into the exquisite beauty of the true self. What can I give you to support you? First of all, I'm going to end today's conversation off with a little love activation, which I want you to receive if you can. Go to my website. The Deep Relaxation Trilogy meditation is a godsend. There's 3 meditations. Each one of them builds on the one that went before. They're super simple guided meditations, but phenomenally powerful. There's courses on my website that can really support you. There's one coming up called Forever Starts Now. I'm very excited about that one. Maybe you're watching this in a couple months' time. That course will just be up in the replay section, so go and look for it anyway. There's a lot of content there to support you. Join the Plasma Light Tribe. That's where you get to really meet the true Kerry, and where I get to meet the true you, and we get to truly transcend. So here's the love activation from my heart. All the way into yours. So much love. I'm here to remind you today that you're free. That you always have been. You just lost touch with the version of you that is free. And now is time to reconnect to that version of you, that higher, multidimensional, infinite self. You are infinite. Speak to you really soon. Lots of love, everyone. There's a video. I'm going to leave it for you over there. It'll be a great one to watch just after this. Bye-bye for now.